Let's dig down on this idea of concision. What problems might we pick up on in our editing that are causing wordiness? So in other words, a problem with concision. Intensifiers and qualifiers are a big culprit here. Words like very, extremely, a considerable amount of, really, definitely. A lot of times these don't add meaning to a sentence. Instead, they simply clutter it up. So know your audience, know your genre, and then read the sentence out loud with and without the intensifiers or qualifiers. Most of the time you're going to find that you want to eliminate them. They very rarely add additional meaning. We use them a lot in spoken language, and that's fine. Spoken language is not the same as written language. So if we want a conversational style, perhaps we would use more varies and maybe the odd kind of. But that's going to have a limited application in professional communication. Perhaps if you are in charge of managing a social media account for a particular organization and they want a conversational tone, sure, go ahead and add in the odd fairly or the odd sort of, if that's appropriate. But do it deliberately. And the same goes for editing. Know when this stuff needs to be cut, and most of the time it does. Formulaic or trite phrases. So there are a lot of these. This list is the briefest of lists, but I hope it gives you an idea of what we're talking about. Now, some of these kinds of trite phrases are used to help to create flow between sentences, so they might act as a bit of a bridge, and maybe that's an important role if the sentences are too choppy. But nevertheless, you still have to watch out because these really clutter up a document. Sometimes we can replace a formulaic phrase with a single word if we really need to have that nuance in the writing. So, for the purpose of, to, at this point in time, now, with regard to, about. So you will want to look at these kinds of phrases and decide which ones to keep, which ones to get rid of. Just remember, the majority of the time, these kinds of phrases are not useful to the document. They clutter it up rather than add to the meaning. Redundant pairs. I hear redundant pairs a lot in spoken communication, but you will also find it in written documents as well. I think a lot of times these habits come from spoken language, and then we get so used to using them that we're not taking real care to decide what is necessary in a written document and what is just wordiness. So let's look at a few of these so you can see what's going on with these redundant pairs. Memories are always in the past because they're a memory. So past memories is redundant. Various differences are various. Each individual, well, sometimes this might work in a document, but most of the time this isn't necessary. Basic fundamentals, well, fundamentals by definition are basic. Facts by definition are true. Essentials by definition are important. Plans by definition are future. You get the idea. Sometimes, for the purpose of clarifying meaning, redundant categories can be important. Sometimes for the purpose of convention even. But be on the lookout for them because often they are just not necessary. So large usually refers to size. So do we need to say large in size, or can we just say large? Oftentimes Usually when we're talking about often, we are talking about times. Usually often is enough. Of a bright color. Might not need to have color in there if something is bright. Heavy in weight. Do we need to know that it's heavy in weight, or is heavy enough? Do we know that we're talking about weight? And the same goes for the majority of these. So again, you might keep this entire phrase, or more likely you might edit it down. So that's a good place to start with the wordiness. I will also post a handout on wordiness to give you some more tips. Be watching for wordiness. It is one of the easiest things to help your own writing, and certainly it's something that you're going to come across a lot when you're editing.